Hello, I'm Debbie Kay with the League of Women Voters of Portland, and you are watching Video Voters Guide. We are with MetroEast Community Media to talk with candidates running in the November election. With me today is James Ofsink, candidate for District 21 for the Senate. James, thanks so much for coming in.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
It's great. Describe your district, please.
Yeah, so it is southeast Portland, Selwood, and then down to Milwaukee, and has a little bit of Oak Grove in it. It goes out to about 60th on the east side, so it's really kind of the inner southeast.
Okay, and what goes on in District 21?
So much. I mean, there's manufacturing areas. There are, Hawthorne, Belmont, Division, all kinds of exciting cultural attractions, parks. It doesn't include Laurelhurst Park or Tabor Park, but those are both kind of close. And it does include Selwood Park. And now there's the Orange Line Max going down to Milwaukee. And yeah, a ton. I mean, some of the most popular bus routes in the city. And yeah, a lot.
Great. I have a hard one for you. If Measure 97 does not pass, how would you recommend addressing the predicted budget shortfall, especially in education and social services?
Yeah, that is a difficult question. I think that we for sure need to pursue additional funding. So in the immediate term, I think that we would have to make some difficult decisions and cut in other areas in order to reduce the amount that's cut from education. I mean, I think education, as soon as we start cutting bone with education, we're only multiplying problems that we're going to have down the line. So I think it is important to try to cut as little as possible from education, especially early childhood education. I feel like in the medium term, though, should Measure 97 not pass, there's still a lot of work to do on tax reform, most importantly property tax reform. And I feel like the legislature in every session until it's fixed needs to be trying to undo the harm done by Measures 5 and 50 that really set us on this path towards divestment in our education system.
Thank you. Let's talk about gun safety. What are your legislative priorities for improving gun safety for Oregon?
Yeah, I think that gun safety is a huge deal. I think that we need to review and revisit our concealed handgun licensing system. Right now, I feel like it is far too I guess liberal is the wrong word, but it allows for concealed handguns to be carried in far too many places. We need to make sure that it's clear that automatic weapons and large capacity magazines are outlawed in the state. And I think it would be good to implement, waiting policies, cool down periods, where more sufficient background checks can be completed. Today, that you can get an instant background check back when you're going to a gun show or gun shop, which is to say it's not a particularly thorough background check that looks into all of the available databases that are out there to assess, how people react under stress and in different situations. Similar to, I know, having been hired at several government positions, background checks routinely take 5-6 days, a week more. And so it's amazing to me that we want to make sure when we're hiring somebody, to work at a university, that the background check takes 5 or 6 days. But if we're selling somebody a gun, it's an instantaneous background check. So I think that we need to switch that paradigm and make sure that, to the extent that we're going to allow some types of firearms to exist in the state, we should be sure that they're only getting into the hands of people who've been thoroughly vetted. And then that, they should also, of course, be required and have liability if they're not properly stowed and secured.
Thank you. How can the legislature ensure that there are adequate funds to address the real priorities of the transportation infrastructure for Oregon?
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like underlying that question a little bit is difficulty with the gas tax and thinking about how gas tax will ultimately be bringing in less and less money as our cars become more fuel efficient and as more people switch to electric vehicles. And there is a little bit of a regressive effect taxing gasoline, because it is more likely that wealthier people will own more efficient vehicles, or more likely to own completely electric vehicles. So I think that the state should transition to a vehicle miles traveled style of assessing or charging people taxes to pay for road infrastructure. But also, as I kind of mentioned with respect to education, I think long term we need to be not just using a use tax where people who use the roads pay for it. I think that the roads and all infrastructure is a public good that everyone should be contributing to, whether they ride bicycles or the bus or drive. And I think that property tax is one way to do that. And also potentially like a more progressive income tax to be bringing in more money overall. And I think that transportation really is the tide that lifts all boats. That phrase is thrown around a lot, particularly by conservatives in ways that I often disagree with. But I think with respect to infrastructure, it really is true. Irregardless of where you are on the wealth pyramid, good public infrastructure benefits you. So, yeah, I'm really interested in reinvesting in public infrastructure, in particular transportation.
Thank you. What do you think more the state of Oregon can do to reduce carbon dioxide emissions and increase local and state production and use of alternative energy?
Yeah, I'm really committed to no new fossil fuel infrastructure. I feel like how can we hope to make things better while we continue to make them worse? And that's actually, it seems like that should not be a radical statement in 2016, that we should not be building more fossil fuel infrastructure, but actually it turns out to be really radical. And the legislature, at least that's there right now, seems to be okay with PGE building new natural gas plants when they turn off the Boardman coal-fired powered plant. And I feel like, wow, if we're going to be using natural gas here in Oregon, that is, from frack fields in, Montana and the Dakotas, and is that really what we want to be powering our state on? So I am really inspired by Jeff Merkley's call for 100% renewable energy by 2050. I think if it's going to happen 100% at the federal level by 2050, then we should be shooting for 100% in Oregon by 2040 or something. And right now the coal to clean bill was only 50% for the largest power manufacturers by 2040. So I feel like there's still a lot more that we can be doing, and we should really be pushing that conversation to say, how are we going to preserve the Oregon that we love, for our children and their children?
Terrific. Thank you. Do you envision a statewide approach to homelessness and affordable housing?
I think there are a number of things that we can and should do, definitely, at the statewide level. I'd like to see increased tenant protections, particularly, people who are right on the edge of, being able to stay in the housing that they're in are extremely vulnerable to becoming homeless, especially when housing is so difficult to come by and rents are going up so quickly. So I feel like at the state level, we do need a strong tenants' bill of rights that'll end no-cause eviction and make sure that tenants can't be harassed out or evicted without a just cause. The other thing is, I do think the state should remove the preemption on rent control, which ends up being a municipal city level issue, because it would be up to cities then to decide if the circumstances warranted using rent control. But right now they're not even able to consider that because the state has said that it can't happen statewide. So I think we should remove that and allow cities like Portland to, if they decide, implement common sense rent control so that people aren't given just 90 days notice to find out that they are going to owe several $100 more every month.
James, we're out of time. It goes fast. Thank you very much. And thank you for watching. This has been Video Voters Guide. The election is November 8th, and the last day to register to vote is October 18th. Please be an informed voter. Learn everything you can about the candidates and the ballot measures, and exercise your so important right to vote. Thanks for being with us today. James, pleasure talking with you. Thanks.